wants to go. The music wants to go longer than me. I thought it was over. Anyway, hey guys, we're gonna talk a little USFL tonight. We're gonna look over the whole season with a special guest, and of course, we have our normal guest. We don't have any game coverage, so it's gonna be a little hard for him to be Chris Berman tonight. But we'll see what happens. We'll bring him in first, Mr. Jamie.
Hey Adam, how's it going tonight? I'm pleasure to
Oh, we're doing, man.
be on again with y'all. And the USFL never stops. I love this league, and let's keep talking about it. Even though the season's over, but it's never over on Driving to the Top Productions. We always believe in the USFL.
Right. We're good. And of course, we are going to bring in a guy I finally got to meet after 2 years of covering it. We met live, folks. Yes, we really did. And let's bring him in right now.
What's up? Ace. How y'all doing? It's always good to come on and talk USFL, man.
What's going on with you?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. This is, I told you before the show, this is my first time. I hadn't even put my mic back up after our live show in Canton. I took a week off, and so I haven't sat in this chair. I haven't done anything USFL related. After the big trip and everything, I just took some time to hang with family and do all that. So I'm excited to get back in and talk about it,
Right. So what were your thoughts on the whole season? Mainly, I mean, I know you're a Gamblers guy. If you want to talk about the Gamblers, we can do that too. But, break down what you thought of the whole season, things that they handled differently this year. We'll get Jamie's thoughts too. Just in general about how things changed and what you like.
Well, I think the obvious thing, the elephant in the room, is the hubs. We moved to 4 hubs this year, which was huge because we didn't even know if we were going to get a second. We were pretty sure, but we thought 2 hubs, got the 4. I thought that went really well. Better at some hubs than others. Canton, I think the way the players were treated and like everything at Canton went really, really well. I think attendance wasn't as good, but we can get into Canton a little bit later because I think we might get a team next year for Canton. I think one team might move over there. But Memphis was great for Memphis. For the Gamblers, not so good. I mean, obviously, when you have a town like that, they're going to pay attention to one team more than the other. Birmingham, I think it was great. I met Heather Jeffcoat, who is the PR representative in charge of the Birmingham hub. She's fantastic. I think that was great. She loved players on both teams. She knew all the names, had relationships with them. So that was fantastic. Jim Huck up in Canton, he's fantastic as the PR rep. Stephanie Bilal's in Memphis. She's good. She's very, very, very Memphis. I get that. I'm hoping that, we can get Houston somewhere where they have someone who's more into the Houston side. And then when you talk about, what was the last one? Michigan. I think Michigan was great. I think Michigan was fantastic, especially the fact that they didn't win a game in Houston or in Michigan until the playoffs, and they were still getting great attendance. I think that's an absolute win, and I'm hoping that they announce the season tickets for season 3 soon for Michigan. I know that that's the hardest one as far as concerts, as far as, probably Monster Car, all these things are happening in that stadium. So Ford Field, they have to make sure that they get the schedule right. But I thought the hubs were fantastic. I thought the gameplay got better. I think, it's working. The crawl, walk, run that Moose Johnson talks about all the time and that a lot of other leagues like to make fun of us for, I think it went incredibly well. Jamie, what do you think of the hubs? I want to hear.
Well, first of all, Ace, welcome on the show. And that was an excellent take you had there. I think extending to 4 hubs was an early Christmas present because, like you said, we were only supposed to get 2.
Mm-hmm.
Canton, the attendance wasn't great in terms of the hubs there, but boy, when it comes championship time, especially when the Maulers were in it, it was I wasn't there, but they fill that stadium up. It's only like a Todd Benson Stadium's only like a 20,000 to 25,000 seat stadium, but when they fill it up for the USFL championship game, it's packed. Like you can't get a seat in the house there.
It was absolutely packed. Let me look it up. How many people are in that stadium? I want to say it's like 23,000. Dude, you were dead on. 23,000 people in that stadium, and it was pretty full. On the big side, the second deck wasn't completely
18?
full, but it was still not bad. But the bottom was completely full.
Was there like 18, you think?
For some reason, the away side. What's up?
Was there like what do we have? 18? Is that what was that the game?
At the game, 18 sounds about right. I think that was good, and it was a great attendance. It was loud. Last year, it felt like it was fun. Last year, it felt like it was Birmingham, right? You know, they were the only hub team. They were the main team. They had a lot of fans. This year, dude, there was a lot of black and gold. Like you saw Pirates shirts, Pirates jerseys, Steelers jerseys, Steelers shirts, Penguins gear. You saw all the Pittsburgh gear out there because not a lot of people had Maulers gear, but everybody who had black and gold was wearing it. And I felt like it really was half and half, you know, Birmingham and half Pittsburgh. So it was a great attendance. It was a great atmosphere, especially since I went to week 1. I was in Memphis. So I saw the Memphis versus Stars game, and they filled up about half of Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium for that game. And it was great, but it was just Memphis, right? There's no Stars fans whatsoever. And then the next day for the Gamblers versus Panthers, dude, I was literally like talking to Gamblers players on the sideline. Like I was in the stands and I was just like talking to them between plays because there was nobody there. So to be in an atmosphere like the championship is so special, and especially in the USFL is not completely normal. So, you know, hopefully someday. But it was a fantastic game. Every play that was exciting, there were people cheering for both sides of the play. I absolutely loved it. And Adam, you had a front row seat. You were right there. Like you said, I had a better seat than you, but honestly, you probably had a better viewpoint because I couldn't really stand behind the bench. So I couldn't see the field that well if they were getting towards midfield, to be honest. Like I could not see it.
Was they only allowing you guys to stand from the 35 to 35 because of the bench area? Or were you guys allowed to stand behind the bench? Or how did that work?
No. Like you can kind of stand behind the bench. They're not really going to stop you, but you can't take photos or video behind the bench. Like it's just kind of an unspoken rule that press don't do when you get there. So with my camera, when I would walk behind the bench, I'd specifically just like put it down to not give anybody any reason to say anything because I don't know, weird things. They think you could be taking pictures of their Surface Pros, like doing weird things. Like the bench is just a little bit more of a private area. So yeah, it was hard. Like when they got to the 50-yard line, we were standing like at the 35 on whichever side, and you really can't see it that well. But if they got to the end zone, man, got some great videos, got some fantastic pictures, posted a couple. Dude, it was fun.
No, where were you? I don't think you were down when Davion Davis caught that first touchdown. I don't think you were down on our end yet. Did it look a lot different from the back 35?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that touchdown. Because I know for some reason, for like a decent amount of the Stallions touchdowns, I was just on the opposite side of the field. I wasn't even over there. Because it would get really crowded.
You had the long.
Yeah, I was just like taking shots
from the behind.
Yeah.
You got to watch McGoo from behind. So it was kind of like, wow, okay. So yeah, I wanted to ask you if there was because my view was just straight sideways, but you got to see like the whole back end of the play and watch McGoo do all his magic back there that he does.
It's crazy. It's wild, especially like watching from behind. You can really get just behind the line of scrimmage. McGoo does move in ways that you shouldn't be able to. First of all, his knees, I can't believe that they're perfectly fine. But he breaks tackles, he stays away from people. That defensive line is no schmucks. You got Olive, Sagapolu, you got Boogie, you got all these guys that are athletes. And he's just keeping away from them. It was ridiculous. There was one play, the last touchdown, the third touchdown that Deion Kane scored. That play was ridiculous. I remember I was on the opposite corner that Deion scored from, and I was watching McGoo. And as soon as he was running to the sideline and dove, I was like, no way. Because he threw it up, and I was like, for some reason, that's just going to be a touchdown. Because it was one of those nights. It was one of those seasons for McGoo where it felt like he could do no wrong. So when he threw it up, I was like, that's
right.
because I was rooting for the Maulers. You know, I know a lot of Maulers players. I know Maulers coaches. They're a fantastic team. I love that whole organization. They're very open to the media. Their practices, it was kind of like a high school practice almost, to where in Birmingham and in Memphis, they're in the stadium and, you know, you can't get in. But for Canton, you literally could just walk up to the sideline and like talk to the players. And it was fantastic. I loved going to their training camp for the season and watching the scrimmage against the Generals. That whole thing was awesome.
Did you go up with Webb?
Yeah, it was me, Webb.
Then Webb went to training camp too.
Yeah, and that was actually the first time I ever met Webb in person. Was at training camp. He's taller than I thought. He doesn't look that tall on camera, but he's like good 5'10". So that was fun. Me, him, Logan, and KB, our producer, we all went up to Canton before the season. We were there for training camp. That was an absolute blast. I went to Memphis the week before, and that was much more close to the chest. You know, security. You know, they let me in. It was fine, but I had to, like, you know, stay with people, make sure I wasn't getting in anybody's way. And Canton was just much more laissez-faire. Like, you can do whatever you want. And that was really cool. But the season was fantastic. Jamie, what team are you rooting for? Are you a Maulers fan?
Yes, I am, because like I said, there's no Buffalo team to root for in the USFL. So the closest thing is Pittsburgh. But yeah, I mean, I really think the Maulers, they made some eyes open this year, and I think everybody wants to still talk about how, like, back in the 80s and to now, they were one of the worst franchises record-wise in the league. They were like 3-15 or 3-17.
Crazy. Yeah.
3-17 all time. And then the season before with Kirby Wilson. Not Kirby Smart. I got to remember that. Kirby Wilson. Okay. Anyway, with the situation with Kirby Wilson and Pizzagate and them winning the one game against Houston. And then this year, not really knowing what to expect. I mean, Coach Horton, I was actually happy when announced he was going to get hired, and like I thought like he was going to do well, but I thought like it was going to take him like 2 to 3 years for them to actually become a good team, and nobody would have thought that they would have made the championship game in just the second year of the league after going 1-9 with a new coach. So I got to give Coach Horton and his son Jaron for winning Assistant of the Year with that Pittsburgh Maulers aggressive defense. So yeah, I think now they're showing the league that we can be one of the best teams now, and we're now a mainstay in the USFL going into season 3. And so now you better prepare for us when teams see the Maulers on the schedule. They better be ready to actually come play now, because they got the coaching staff and the players, and they got the stability now to be a good team for a long time.
Oh, yeah, I absolutely agree. Ray Horton, not only a great coach, great person. One of my favorite people, you know, the press conferences after the game, our network was able to zoom in and we were able to talk to the coaches. And one of my favorite ones to talk to was Horton, because win or lose, he was always just incredibly respectful, and he had just the way he would talk. If, you know, he would stay, because some of them, whenever they went on a win streak at the end there, and he would just come in and he'd say his piece and he'd say, "My players know what to do," and he'd walk out. And I thought that was really cool. He just wanted it to be focused on the players. He's a really good dude. And something that I thought was that he might be a one and done kind of guy in the USFL for the season, because, you know, he came out of retirement for it. He wanted to coach with his son, and they got to the championship. I thought he might be done after the season, might hand the team over to Jaron. But after the championship, that press conference, I had never seen a fire in Coach Horton the way that there was after that game. And he sat there and he talked about, there's going to be changes in the offseason. We're going to make those changes. We have the core guys we need. And it really sounded like he wasn't going anywhere. And that was exciting, because one thing that I love in this league is consistency. That is a very important part that we have to have. We only had 4 coaches come from season 1 to season 2. For some reason, the football was still better and the league looked great for it, but you don't want to have the coaching turnover every year like that. And the fact that it sounded like it really lit a fire under him. He wanted to come back. He wanted to show what the Maulers really could do. He loved the players, man. He loves those players. That was really exciting to me. So the fact that it sounded like when he talked, this could change, that he's coming back. That was awesome.
Yeah, and Ace, you did mention I've never seen a coach like after he loses a championship game try to troll Skip Holtz and the Stallions when he went up to the line. He's like, "We're coming for you guys next year. We coming," and he shook his hand, and Skip Holtz was like dazed and confused, like, "What the heck just happened here?" And then he went to the press conference and he's like, "Oh, we're going to be a force next year and everything."
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't get coaches that are usually like that are that confident in their team, especially after losing a game the way they did in the championship game. That's just that shows that he's the leader and that the players really respect somebody like that. He wasn't all down in the dumps after they lost.
100%. And something that was really big was that he never, and Kirby Wilson did the same thing. He never put it on the players. He never put it on the other coaches. It was always, I take responsibility for that. And that's really big for me. I love when coaches take responsibility. And he did that. But a big thing that he pivoted on a little bit was that he said there's going to be big changes in the offseason. So I would assume that Coach Tomlinson, the offensive coordinator over there, I would assume he's not coming back next year. Or if he is in a different capacity and have a different play caller, because that offense just could not get going. The Maulers offense had so much talent to have not scored touchdowns. So next year, if they get something changed on offense, I think they could be pretty easily the best team in this league. I know Webb might be watching, and I might not have said that, but I said it, and I think it's true, that I think they could be the best team in the league. The Gamblers, we have Kenji Bahar playing at a good time. We could be the best team in the league. Every team is kind of that one thing away, and the one team that had it was the Stallions. They had Alex Magoo, and he was that one thing that put him over, and I mean, you just couldn't beat the guy.
And they also had the previous year too with Jamar Smith and then Magoo coming in. So,
well, Jamar Smith, the thing about him is that I never felt like he was the difference in the game. He felt scrappy. He could make plays. But last year, it really felt like their defense was making a lot of the plays that were keeping them in the game. And then this year, Magoo was just a kind of quarterback we hadn't seen other than maybe late season 1 Case Cookers. So where he just put the entire team on his back. And that was ridiculous. Last year, a quarterback didn't even win MVP, right? It was Kevontae Turpin. It was a receiver, which then this year he comes in, and by the end of the season, you couldn't tell me that it was anybody else. I had been fighting for Mark Thompson. It wasn't Mark. It was Magoo. The man was just different. And I don't know. I really was hoping that the Maulers could do it in the championship. But when you can just Superman the sideline and throw the ball up and your receiver comes down with it in the end zone, you're not going to do that.
I definitely don't blame their lack of preparation because I think they were ready for that game. It's just reality came.
When you
reality came, but they were ready for them. I don't think you, like I said, you can't blame lack of preparation.
No, I don't think
because I think they were prepared to, and they had a game plan for Magoo. Like if you saw earlier in the game, they got to him, they got pressure on him, and they were sacking him and everything too.
Dude, how about the Olive Sagapolu, the scoop and almost score, the big man rumbling, stumbling, fumbling down the field. He hands the ball off to Eli Walker. Sadly, it's forward. From my point of view, I had no idea that it was a forward handoff. And so I was taking photos. I didn't get any photos of the strip sack, so I was just watching that. And as soon as it happened, I put the camera up, and I got some photos of Olive running down the field. That play was insane. And I feel like if that had been a touchdown, if that had counted, the entire game could have changed.
Or even if Lewis had missed that, or even if even if Blewett didn't miss that field goal too.
Yeah.
Because if he made that field goal, it's still 21-15 there.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, the end of the season, it was exactly what was haunting the Maulers the entire season. They couldn't get into the end zone. They scored 4 field goals. Stallions just scored 4 touchdowns.
That was the one thing I talked about with Web Ace was they got to score in the red zone. If they don't score in the red zone, they're probably going to lose. And they did not. They had 1st and goal from the 1. And ended up being 4th and goal from the 19 for a field goal.
On a 9.5-minute opening drive of the first quarter.
That was the killer. Tough. It was a 9.5 opening minute drive. At that point, I was feeling good. And then
they were doing exactly what they needed to.
Mm-hmm. They couldn't punch it in, and I was like, this game's going to be a long one, boys. Like, you just got that vibe. Like, we score on that opening drive, it's a whole different tone.
100%.
But they stopped us.
Momentum's so big, especially in a league like this where the parity of the teams is not that big. None of these teams are just, head and shoulders above another team. And that's one of the great things about it was that every single week, you didn't know who was going to win. I mean, when the Stallions by the end of the season were like, they're probably going to win. But at any given game, any week, any team could win. And I absolutely love that about this league. It's also really hard because it's a lot of close games. And someone who gets so personally invested like myself, the Gamblers having a lot of close games was so hard to watch. But I love that from a fan standpoint that the games are great. You don't know what's going to happen. It's not like Tom Brady and the Patriots. This one's for you, Webb. Just go into the Super Bowl 6 times and everybody's just annoyed. There's one real Goliath in the league, and that's the Birmingham Stallions. But I don't see Magoo coming back next year. At this point, I think he's risen to the top. And once you do that, I don't know why you come back. Scooby Wright, I think he's done the way that a lot of the players were talking. They said, this is the second season. Scooby flat out said, maybe WWE. I could see that. Or I think he tried out for it. I think he actually tried out for that.
I think he's 1-1.
Dang.
In UFC.
But,
or MMA fighting, whatever they call
MMA
it.
Fighting?
I thought he said it was 1-1.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I thought he said he was 1-1.
Well, if he does that, that's awesome. I mean, I've seen, fighters play football as well. Reggie Northrup last year, he went from MMA season to USFL to MMA season to XFL. So it can happen.
Or Brock Lesnar back in the day when he tried a preseason game with the Minnesota Vikings. That was
go Vikings. Skull, man. But
Ace is a Vikings guy.
I am a Vikings guy. I got my water bottle right here. But the way Scooby talked after the game, he said, this is our second one, and it's just a little less exciting. And you could tell that he was just, it didn't mean as much. Like, it still meant a lot. But you could tell that he kind of felt the top of the mountain moment where he says, only downhill from here. So I see next season, I would see a lot of turnover for the Stallions. I don't think it's the same as season 1 going into season 2, where the Stallions retained something like 75% of their roster, which is crazy. I see at least 50% turnover. I think a lot of the players that were there for both seasons, I think they call it quits and they say, we've done it. If I can't get to the NFL at this point, then maybe my football career is over. They look into whatever else they want to do in their lives. So I think that there's a lot more turnover. I think next season, there's going to be someone else at top. I don't think that there's a three-peat. I don't think that happens. So that's exciting. That's something to look forward to. But you said that you wanted to talk about some of the players that we think are definitely going to the NFL and are not going to be here next year, right?
Right.
All right.
Jamie was telling me before you
right here.
Yeah, let's go around the circle. Jamie, start us off. Who's your number one?
I've got a list right here. So we have first of all, we have Brandon Aubrey, the kicker from the Birmingham Stallions, signing with the Dallas Cowboys. And I may be a little biased here because the Cowboys are my second favorite team besides the Bills. But also knowing football and knowing the Cowboys kicking situation, this was an absolute perfect signing. Do I think should have taken a look at Philadelphia Stars kicker Luis Aguilar? Yes, I do. But when I looked at the stats combined, Brandon Aubrey made all of his extra points, and Luis Aguilar was 19 to 20. It was 95%, and he was 29 to 32 from field goals as well, Brandon Aubrey. So, and it makes sense. The Texas connection where he played high school soccer in Plato High School down there.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense. Then we have another great signing who I think was great is obviously this is you could attest to this, Ace, is Houston Gamblers tight end Josh Peterson signing with Jacksonville to go play for his old man and his head coach Dougie.
Doug Peterson.
So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Doug Peterson, the king of the trick plays. Yeah, so.
And then now we got a third one coming up, Deion Kane, but we aren't sure. Yeah, we aren't sure what
We have
team.
Deion Kane from Birmingham.
Back to the Eagles?
They already said. Now, here's the thing with them. Kane already said this is another one where his contract was terminated, and this is another one where we have to play a guessing game where we think he's going to go because they already said he signed with a team. We just don't know yet.
Well, not
You go back
necessarily.
to the Eagles?
So,
Where do you think he's going to sign, guys? What team do you think that he's going to sign with?
someone said the Titans, and I honestly like that because I think the Titans have a weaker wide receiver room right now, and that would be just a great pickup to give them some depth, give them some competition in camp. So I like the Titans. I think that would be cool. I like Ryan Tannehill. Everybody sees a dog on the man, but I think he's a good quarterback. He's solid. But it's not necessarily that when it says terminated NFL contract, it's that they had offers. So Brandon Aubrey, they posted terminated, signed an NFL contract. He had not. He had not decided because he had multiple offers from NFL teams. So once you get offered an NFL contract, you can terminate your USFL. But if you have multiple deals, you can still feel it out. Because Brandon didn't decide where he was going until the night before it was announced that he was going to the Cowboys. He hadn't decided. And I think a lot of that was his, hometown, things like that. Plano. I think that made a lot of sense. And they needed the kicker bad. Brandon is one of the most consistent kickers I've ever seen. The guy was have you had him on your show? Justin Tucker. Yeah. I've talked to Brandon. We've DM'd too. And then at the championship, I saw him and his wife was nice enough to be like, oh my gosh, let's take a picture. Took my phone, got photos with him. So it was really, really nice to finally talk to him and meet him in person because I had talked to him on camera and in DMs.
And you put the emphasis on the Cowboys needed a kicker badly. Guess what?
What?
They needed a kicker for the past 10 years.
Almost more than that. They have needed a kicker for a long, long time. So I thought that was funny because every time they would post something about a kicker doing something good in the USFL, a lot of the comments would be people saying Cowboys, 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 Cowboys. So the fact that the first kicker coming out, the first signing coming out of season 2 was Brandon Aubrey to the Cowboys. It was a little bit poetic. I enjoyed it. I'm from Texas. I don't like the Cowboys. I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I'm happy for him to sign with any team. So I'm very happy for Brandon. He and his wife are fantastic people. Love that he's getting this opportunity, and I cannot wait to see that. I'm also very happy he's not a Stallion anymore because, man, he helped them win a lot of games in the South. So that's already one that we got out of there. We got the Magoo of kicking gone, so we just need to get Alex Magoo gone, signed to an NFL team so that everybody can start beating the Stallions. But Josh Peterson.
So will you have Brandon back on once he gets your training camp and then see an update or not?
We'll see. We'll see. I like Brandon. I liked having him on the show. He was a real class act. He was ready. He had his Stallions helmet that they had let him take home to practice kicking in because, you want to practice as you play. So he would wear his helmet while he was practicing. And he put it behind him specifically just for the show. So I loved talking to him, and I would love to have him on again. He was a really cool guy. But talking about, other players who have signed, Josh Peterson, a lot of people were like, whoa, why not Sage Surratt? Why not Jay Sternberger? Well, Sage Surratt signed with the camp last year, and he ended up coming back. I'm sure he's getting calls, but I think right now he's got maybe a little more options. He's putting out more feelers. He's the kind of guy who probably is feeling out what's the best contract, where does he want to go. Jay Sternberger, man, the man only catches touchdowns. He was like the Chris Carter of the USFL, only catches touchdowns, which is sometimes a knock, because a big knock on him was that his hands were not fantastic. He just he would catch the ball every time it was in the end zone, but he wasn't 100% consistent in the midfield, over the middle. So that was a little bit of a knock on him. Josh Peterson was third in receiving yards among tight ends. He was very sure-handed. He was third in receiving yards, and he had 15 less targets than Jay Sternberger. He had 27 less targets than Sage Surratt. So the fact that he was doing that, he looked great when he did it, and he's a scheme fit for Jacksonville, right? One of my favorite moments from this season was game 1. I was there. Josh Peterson caught like a 42-yard pass, and he took it. And everybody's cheering. And I turned around because Doug Peterson was 2 seats behind me. So he's just right behind me. And I turned around to Doug and I said, man, that guy seems like he really knows football. Must be something in the family. And he looks at me and goes, no, that's really good coaching. Just really good coaching. So I thought that was a blast, but he had literally been watching him the whole season. Josh showed out. He was one of the top receivers on the Gamblers, third in receiving in the USFL, sure-handed, was making very athletic plays. He's a very, very quiet guy. So the plays he was making were loud. So I think it's a great fit. And, to be able to go play for your dad, say nepotism all you want, but that's special. And that's what the game of football is all about, is to be able to do things like that. Everybody, back in the day, if you threw the football with your dad, then imagine going and playing on a team with him. So I love it. I think it's super cool.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Do you think Mark Thompson's going anywhere?
I don't know if Mark Thompson's going anywhere. He's a little old at this point for a running back. He showed that he was durable this season, which was awesome, because last season he didn't finish the season. He was hurt. This season he had some personal issues before the season that held him out, but then he was just the man of steel. He never really went down after that. I'd like to see him go, but I'm not totally sure, because now at this point, he was basically, he posted his thank you message. He posted about how great the USFL was. And then now I think it was earlier today, he posted that, what if will the USFL give me more incentive money to come back next year? And to me, that says that the fish aren't biting, that the NFL, he's not getting the calls that he thought he was going to get. He's a little bit older. People can do what he does, but a little bit faster. That's really what the USFL is that it's a lot of guys that there were other guys in the NFL who could do what they did just a little bit faster, right? Kiki Chisholm, Houston Gamblers. Dude has NFL height, NFL hands. He's a deep threat, and he can do jump balls in the end zone. He's just a half step shorter than the other guys who can do, a half step slower than the other guys who can do that in the NFL. So I think that's what Mark's running into, is that there are other guys like Mark in camps right now, and maybe we'll see those guys in the USFL soon, but we might not see Mark in the NFL. So that's hard when people are watching these games and they think this guy's going to the NFL. The USFL is similar. It's not the same, Do
you feel it because the NFL become a passing league too, that Mark Thompson might be looked over?
No, I don't think it has to do with that, because he's also a great pass blocker. And that's a really important part. If he wasn't a good pass blocker, he wouldn't have played. That was a knock on Devois Whaley, and that's why Devois wasn't starting at the beginning of the season when he was running back 2 and Mark was running back 1. Then Mark went down and was inactive the first 2 weeks, and TJ Pledger moved from 3 to 2. That's because of his blocking. TJ wasn't gonna blow you away and break an 80-yard run, but what he was gonna do was he was gonna protect Kenji. Kenji took I think he only took 2 sacks in like the first 2 weeks. So pass blocking is a huge part of the running back game that a lot of people don't talk about. And I think Mark is a very good pass blocker. He's physical. He's large. I really do think it might just have to do with his speed, and that there might still be questions on his durability. Do I think he's a great running back? I think he's fantastic. If he were to sign with the Minnesota Vikings right now and be the number 2 to Alexander Madison, I'd be ecstatic. But I just don't know if that's
be the number 2 up there in Minnesota.
Whatever. But I just I don't know. That's one of those
I don't
hard
think
ones.
he's going to be the number 2 guy.
He might. I'm not sure. I haven't, dude. Ever since I started doing USFL, I don't follow the Vikings as much as I used to. Like I follow them, but it's
Right.
not as heated as it was, which is easier because I can't do a fall and a spring league where I'm so invested in the team that when they lose, it like ruins my day. So the Vikings, I kind of took a step back. Like when they sign people, I'll look into it, but I'm not watching like day to day. You know, what are they doing with the books, things like that. I'm just gonna watch in the fall and enjoy my Vikings.
Now you do. Oh my gosh, you do this with the gamblers though. You do.
Oh my
follow
gosh,
them
dude!
on
Everything the
daily
gamblers
basis.
do, I know about. Like everything. I'm
I mean,
paying
last
attention to
show
everything.
you said you were talking to the GM and
Yeah,
phone call.
no,
You
dude.
got him on.
I don't know how much longer Coach
I think
Bob.
that's awesome.
I don't know how much longer he's going to be, you know, GMing because at this point, he's towards the tail end of his career. He's got grandchildren. He probably wants to settle down and retire. So I'm really just trying to enjoy the time I have with Coach Bob left because he is a fantastic GM. I absolutely loved the team he put together this year. And yeah, getting the opportunity that he is so nice and he appreciates what I do for the team as far as trying to get the name out there, as far as trying to always be positive, right? He appreciates that stuff. And that's why I've been able to build a relationship with him, you know, become friends. And yeah, he calls me sometimes when he's on his walks and we just talk. And sometimes it's just like about life. We're just killing time. So absolutely love Coach Bob. And I hope that we get at least a couple more seasons with him before he retires and goes.
So he's kind of like us.
Grandkids.
He's kind of like us in a way, you know. We talk about everything else. Sometimes we don't just talk football. We talk about, like before we were talking about concerts and everything else.
Oh yeah, man. That's the best part about these leagues is the people you get to know. Like at the championship 2 weeks ago, going and meeting, seeing the ref and Zach I've met a bunch of times. Meeting Jake, who's Alucard on Twitter, meeting Texas Pete, meeting all these people that you interact with and you talk football all the time, and then just meeting them and saying, oh, how was your trip? Who are you here with? Talking to them, getting to know them. That's my favorite part of this whole thing. Talking to players, getting to know them. I love Ducky. When we were up there in Canton, because he only lives a couple minutes from there, when we were up in Canton for training camp, we actually went out to dinner with him. He's a fantastic guy. I love Ducky. He's great. James, I met at the championship last year, and I hadn't seen him since. So it was cool to see him again. This time I had my own camera, so I wasn't just following him like, oh, that's a good shot you just got. But yeah, it's fun to go and get to see everybody in person, and the more personal side is my favorite side. That's when we talk about the USFL Network, our representatives, we get people on the show. When we talk to them on the show, we always say, hey, if you really do want to be an insider, if you want to be a reporter that's covering this league and you want to get the stuff that other people don't, you need to care. When you're talking to a player, it's not just, hey man, what happened in practice today? It's, hey, I know you said your girlfriend was visiting this week. Did she get home safe? How'd that go? Was it fun having her there? Talking to them about life, just actually knowing them as a person, which is the more fun part, honestly, because you're making friends. And then when they come on your show, to know them better than just, oh, I'm having this guy on today. Let's talk football. It's more enjoyable for the fans to watch that they're watching us and it's just a conversation. And it's not just question. Thanks for being on. I love the personal aspect from all sides of this league. And that's one of the cool parts is that in the NFL, there's a bigger gap.
I'm still taking responsibility that Ace, that I changed your whole mentality on interviews and conversations.
Why?
Why? Because
what did I do?
Because after you came on our show, you changed everything. You a whole different vibe. Whenever we talked in depth, whenever you came on the show the first time what was that? Right before the season started.
Oh,
your whole vibe changed.
So are you talking about, let's say, the first time I came on, before season 1, or the time before season 2?
Season 1, yeah. Season 1.
Dude, yeah. No, that was, man.
Season 1.
I think a lot of that is I've grown a lot as an interviewer since then. I got on with y'all, and I got to see the other side, which was cool. because up until that point, I'd only interviewed people. I hadn't had anybody be like, hey, do you want to come on our show and answer questions? So you can't really prepare fully for that, because when you interview someone, I learn everything I can. I'm going through their Facebook. I'm going through their Instagram. I'm trying to find cool things to ask about that helps people get to know them. So when they're watching the player on the field, they're like, oh my gosh, that guy's actually a civil engineer that graduated from an HBCU, things like that. To come back and be on the other side, which was the first time, was with y'all. It was cool. And I really got to learn a lot about the interview process, seeing both sides. And yeah, it changed like a lot about what I did. I got more relaxed, Yeah. I got more relaxed. I had fun. Yeah, that was a good one, man. That was a really, really fun one. And my mother-in-law, I think she might be watching right now, she loved that one because beforehand, you guys asked, you said, what's your vibe? Like, do you swear? Do you guys do anything on your show? Because you guys had all explicit podcasts up until that point on the Spotify. And I was like, oh, personally, I don't swear. Obviously, it's your show. You can do whatever you want, but I'm not going to, just because like I don't want to in this room. And you guys didn't swear the entire show. And she thought that was so cool that you guys, out of respect, just didn't do that. I think it was your first Spotify stream that you didn't have to put the explicit mark on, which I was like, that's crazy. So thank you for that, man. Like, I don't know. That was a big moment in my like podcasting, covering football thing. Was, first of all, being asked to go on someone else's show is cool. Like, that just feels cool. And then like going on, talking to y'all, seeing the way it is from the other side. And then, really interacting with other podcasters, because otherwise, up until that, I'd only talk to people in the network, players. So talking to other people who wanted to do this other stuff, it's just an eye-opening experience. And I'm sure Jamie felt the same way. The first time he got on here with you, he was like, oh my gosh, this is so much different than I thought it would be. So, it's a fun time. I love doing this stuff.
I wasn't there. Evan did your first interview, right, Jam? Your first
coverage with the XFL, with his XFL show.
I don't think I was there that night, right?
I don't think you were, but yeah, because you do the USFL. He did the XFL show. So that was my first ever. That was my first ever episode, was with Evan with the XFL too.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, Evan, like we said, Evan is at work tonight, usually.
New York. So I'm trying to think who your XFL team would be. I'm trying to remember. There's the Guardians moved to Orlando. Were you a DC Defenders fan?
I kind of was, because of Greg Williams was the defensive coordinator.
Oh, Browns guy.
And Bills head coach.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, I like that team, man. They had a lot of USFL guys that went on that team. Obviously, Tamu, but Abram Smith, their running back. I watched that dude his entire career at Baylor. I went to Baylor, so I've been to every Baylor home game I can for the past 9 years, just about. So Abram Smith, absolutely loved watching him. I think he's a beast. I don't know if you knew this, but he came to Baylor as a linebacker, and then eventually, I think his junior year, the coach was just not about their running back room. He was like, we need one more guy. We just don't have it. And he heard that Abram Smith had been a running back in high school. So he was like, hey, come do running back practice today. And so that's why his last 2 seasons, he was a running back. And that's what got him, he signed with, I think, the Saints. And then he went and he was the first overall pick in the XFL. So like, I love Abram Smith, and I was very, very excited. I was actually rooting for the Renegades, but that's because they had a bunch of USFL guys, and some friends that I made in the USFL were on that team. So I was rooting for them, but I was okay with the Defenders.
Hey, the Pizzagate guy.
Which one?
The Renegades. They had Iro.
Oh, they had Devion Smith.
For the Maulers.
Devion Smith. Mm-hmm.
Yes, they did.
He goes.
I couldn't think of his name, but I was like, wait.
What a difference a year makes for him, though. He goes from Pizzagate to being an XFL champion. I mean, that's interesting.
My big guy was Donald Payne, DP. He went and he was on the Renegades, and he won that championship. I was so excited for the man. I loved watching him on the Gamblers. And I had talked to him when he decided to go to the XFL. He told me about it, and I said, what was the final reason? And he explained it to me. And the amount of respect that he had for the game, for the Gamblers organization, he was the only player who, the morning of the XFL draft, he called the general, Bob Morris. He said, I just want you to hear this from me, but I am going to go play in the XFL, but I wanted you to hear it from me first. He was the only player who did that. And that says a lot about a man. And when he explained why he was doing it, I was like, obviously, I understand. I get that. One of my favorite football players of all time, and I could not be happier that he won the championship.
And Louis Perez, don't forget too. He was with the New Jersey
the Vipers.
Generals, and
he was with the Generals. He went and played for the Vipers. Then they traded him to the Renegades, who cut Kyle Sloter to take him, and then he goes and takes them on a winning streak to win the championship. The dude, he's a baller, man. He is the big reason I think that the Generals were not the same team this year. The Generals went from the third best team last year to the worst team this year. And I think a humongous reason, if not the main reason, is that they did not have Luis Perez. Luis Perez was the one who came in. He was consistent. He was a great passer. They could bring in DeAndre Johnson to run the ball and, be a little triple or dual threat quarterback when they needed. But they could always bring Luis Perez in to be the consistent, accurate arm that they needed him to be. And without him and leaning solely on DeAndre Johnson, trying it with Kyle Laletta, with Dakota Prukup, which I think Prukup didn't get it as big a shot as he deserved. Luis Perez was the missing piece that could have gotten them going and possibly could have gotten them into the playoffs this year. So I think the big reason that they went from first to worst would be that they didn't have Luis Perez.
They got hit with the injury bug too at the end. At the end of the year too. They did. Bad too. I think they were they got hit with it the worst, I think, actually.
Well, towards the end of the season they did, but at the beginning of the season, the fact that the Stallions lost like half their team. That was crazy. Jamar goes down with surgery. Bobby Holiday goes down with a shoulder injury. Yeah, Scooby goes down. Like all of that. To be able to come back and do what they did was ridiculous. But I think they took it the worst. The second worst was probably the Generals. And then injuries weren't too bad around the rest of the league other than the Breakers. I remember something I was talking about the week 10 against the Breakers with the Gamblers. I was talking to Bob Morris, and he was like, the crazy thing about the Breakers is that they've only made like 2 roster moves the entire season. They stayed healthy, and they were able to keep their roster intact for 10 games, which is absolutely ludicrous. And so that's just good GM work. That's crazy. But to have that kind of consistency, they were the best with injuries, was that the Breakers did not lose many people. That was crazy.
All right. You were in that division, Ace. Did you feel team figured out Bethel Thompson?
Do I what?
Or why did he? Do you feel that teams finally figured out Bethel Thompson, or why did he stumble a little bit in the middle and then kind of light it back up again? Do you think he needed a rest because he is an older guy?
No, I don't think it was because he was older.
He is an older guy.
I think that defenses started being able to do more complex things. That's just how this league goes because it's a short training camp. Once it got towards midseason, the defenses are really hitting their groove. They're able to hit more blitzes. They're able to disguise things better and work better together. So their offense going into it was good because they had this 34-year-old mind who knew how not to mess up, right? Bethel Thompson wasn't lighting it up. He was throwing short passes to Sage Surratt, and Wes Hills was running it in the red zone. But he was protecting the ball and doing things well. And then once defenses started getting more complex, they start getting into the backfield more. He has less time. He's not that incredibly accurate. He's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong, but he overthrows the ball a lot. And once that started happening, his confidence started, getting chipped away. And the fact that he wasn't the most mobile quarterback was really hurting him. So I think that's what happened. And then I think DeFilippo changed the offense towards the end of the season when they started getting back into it. I think he realized this isn't working. We're going to change some things and more quick game, going back to getting it to Sage Surratt, all those things. Nice. We got some comments.
You got a comment.
Nice. I assume that is Webb. He likes to call me AC Boo. That's my guy. Love Webb.
Oh, man. Oh, Webb's a good dude.
Well, I don't have much more time.
If that's Webb, we're assuming.
Yeah, it's Webb. I'll tell you, it's Webb.
So Ace,
But I don't have much more time. Do you have like one more
she all
question?
settled now?
Dude, she is mostly settled. That was a long week. It was a long. It's like one of the hottest weeks in Texas history. It was brutal. It's the captain. It's Brandon. Apparently, Brandon is the one.
It's the showboats.
We'll see.
He just posted something a little bit ago.
Dude, he's so.
I didn't.
great.
I know I read.
I love Brandon. I don't understand. Like, the man is just so good at finding information, at interacting on Twitter. I've never seen anybody do it the organic way he does, and as impressively.
Showboats for life, he said.
Dude, Brandon is just impressive. Like, what he does on Twitter is crazy. Like, he's so on top of things. I keep. Awesome. Yeah, dude. I have Deion Kane. I have his search saved on Twitter because I keep checking it, like every hour or so to something comes out or if any news leaks. And
that's what he posted, the Deion Kane in Philadelphia moments.
Always one of the first things that comes up is one of his posts. He's always on top of it. Like, I'm trying to keep up with it and be better, and I'm just mimicking him because he's really the best at that kind of stuff. It's crazy. It's Z-Man now. New guy checking in.
It's Z-Man now.
That's Xander. I don't know. You met Xander at the championship. He was there on the sideline with us, our newest guy. And I have not met a guy who has just an absolute love for podcasting, for following a league and trying to grow a network, like grow our subs and stuff and get more people to listen to us with just enthusiasm and positivity as Xander. The dude is one of the nicest people I've ever met. Kentucky, I don't know, just the Southern charm, like very, very, very nice guy. And then he came into our show.
We were like, remember who he is.
He had a backwards hat on, longer hair. The dude, he's just so nice. He was our main commenter on our show for a long, long time. And then we were like, come on our show. Because for when the Maulers played the Gamblers, he was the one who was like, you guys got to do a bet. And then we decided to do a bet for charity. And then we were going to let him pick. So we let him come on the show. And then I think that week he joined the network because we were like, dude, you're great. He came in with notes. When he talked, he knew football. He knew the game, which is crazy because I believe he told me he never played football. But the dude, the easiest decision our network's ever made, bringing him on. Man, Webb, the captain, Brandon, Xander, Logan, Buck, all these guys. I love our network. I absolutely love the people we have, which it's just fun talking to them, man. But I think I have time for one more question. Jamie, I want you to ask me something, and I'm going to hit you with a good answer. What do you got, man?
So I do have a good question for you. There's obviously, I think there's a little bit of a rivalry between the XFL and the USFL, and you're a 100%. Vikings guy. And what do you think of Jordan Ta'amu after playing with the Defenders? He signed with Minnesota after the XFL. And
did he really? I didn't even.
Yeah, and what are your thoughts of him maybe potentially taking over for Kirk Cousins? I think as a starter, because I think Kirk Cousins, I don't think he's gonna last as much longer, and I think Ta'amu might get some playing time with the Vikings. I mean, it's possible.
I think that there's always a possibility. I would say that Kirk Cousins, man, he does not get the respect he deserves, and I dogged on him for a long time as a Vikings fan. I was like, this isn't the guy. He's nerdy, but after really, really diving into football these past 2 years, covering the Gamblers, watching a lot of tape, I don't think people realize how much tape, like Webb, Logan, Brandon, myself, that we watch of players, especially when they get picked up by teams. I've watched a lot of football tape, and there is a lot that goes into it. And when you're talking about someone, let's say the difference between a Kirk Cousins and a Jordan Ta'amu, I think they just see the game different. And I think that Kirk is on just such a different level that the only way Jordan would play is if Kirk got hurt, because I think Kirk just sees the game. He understands the game. And I think it's just a faster pace that he understands better. Now, if you talk to my man, Logan Lowe in the USFL Network is also a Vikings fan. He does not think Kirk is it. He wants Kirk gone. Man, I think he could do it. I think if our defense is better this year, we got Brian Flores. I think we could do it. We could get to the playoffs, get a little deep, dare I say, almost get to a Super Bowl. But I don't think that we would see Tamu play. I think he could get on the team as a QB3, but I would say that's about it.
All right. Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, we just about hit the hour point.
Yeah, I see that.
I gave you what I got.
Ace.
I wrote it.
I enjoy every moment of it, and you know that. You are
Thank you,
more than
man.
welcome to come back on the show anytime. Maybe one day I'll get to venture onto your end of the land and be in the other chair like you are tonight.
Hey, it's a fun time.
I don't know. I guess I don't know where Jamie went.
No worries.
But yeah, how do we get a hold of you, Ace?
Man, if anybody wants to follow me, at Pocket Aces _USFL on Instagram, Twitter, and now Threads. That's a new thing. I always have to remember to post on that because it feels like I posted on Twitter, but Threads is different, even though it looks the same. And then the USFL Network YouTube, go subscribe to that. We have a giveaway. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, I have a signed Cavante Turpin Cowboys jersey that I'm going to send to just a random sub, one of our 1,000 subscribers. Once we hit it, I'm going to literally just mail it to someone's house. So go subscribe so that you can get that, and check out everybody on the USFL Network, man. I love all those dudes. No matter what team you cover, if you just like the league, we have a show for you. And watch, there's going to be a big stuff coming out of the USFL Network in this offseason. There's going to be a lot of change. Just, things are going to look different. So we'll see that. Not with people. I mean, we might bring some new people, but I like our guys now, so we're not getting rid of anybody. But there's going to be some change, man. Some big stuff. So very excited about that.
That's what I like to hear. Jamie, how people get you?
Certainly. You guys can find me on Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Dog Tags, which is my original Twitter account, and DefiantTakesFootball.com. You can also find me here on my other Twitter account created by Mr. Sports Talking and Adam right here, at Bill's Chat 1 at Bill's Mafia Chat. The reason why I got this channel is because I will be starting a Buffalo Bills podcast. We already got the intro video up for that, which is pretty cool. And I'll be starting that on at the end of the month. So please make sure to tune into that show here on Defiant Takes Network once that gets going, because we're going to have a lot of fun talking about the Bills and other football topics too. And I got a lot of cool guests lined up too. And then I also write for Defiant Takes Football, and you can find my sports stories there on the Buffalo Bills, Syracuse football, and both the USFL and XFL. Oh, and I too just got into the Threads game.
Heck yeah.
Where you can follow me on Threads, and it's at Jamie Malloy at Jamie 2.1, which is the same as my Instagram account. So yeah, you could go follow me there too and check out my posts about the USFL and other stories there too. So thank you guys very much for listening.
Heck yeah, I'll make sure you go sub, man.
All
That's
right.
awesome.
I am at Hammer Time Pit, Sports Talking It on Twitter. Driving to the top on Twitter, driving to the top on YouTube. I thank everyone for tuning in tonight, including the USFL Network. There are some comments out there for that.
Thank you guys for the comments.
I thank everyone for coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, y'all have a great night.
All righty.